The Kingdom of Atlantis, the real location. I am doing this video to advertise the book Ancient Dacia by Nicolae Densusianu some more, and also to reveal something that's very important, which I have to do prior to my preface part 1 analysis. This is important. So, where is Atlantis? First, Wikipedia tells us Atlantis in ancient Greek is named the island of Atlas. Ancient Greek, island of Atlas. So off the bat, we know we are dealing with Greek times. Going back to Pomponi Mela map, this is the known world of the Greeks about 2,000 years ago. Now, it's hard to see very much detail on this map. I'll return to it. So who was Atlas? In Greek mythology, Atlas was a titan condemned to hold up the celestial heavens for eternity after the Titanomachy. Now, what is the titan? In Greek mythology, the Titans and Titanesses, or Titanides, were a race of deities, members of the second generation of divine beings, succeeding the primordial deities and preceding the Olympians. So they are before the Olympians, but after the primordial deities, which are really the lands, water, earth, fire, air, those things. What was the Titanomachy? In Greek mythology, it was the Titan battle. It was a 10-year series of battle fought in Thessaly, consisting of most of the Titans, an older generation of gods based on Mount Orphic, fighting against the Olympians, the younger generation who would come to reign on Mount Olympus and their allies. This event is also known as the War of the Titans, Battle of the Titans, Battle of the Gods, or just the Titan War. The war was fought to decide which generation of gods would have dominion over the universe. It ended in victory for the Olympian gods. Now, it says this battle was fought in Thessaly. Thessaly is part of modern-day Greece. It's below modern-day Macedonia, which was neighbors with Thrace. And if you listen to the part 1 preface, Macedonia is referred to as our Romanian brothers. So, now you have the background. We have Atlas, and his kingdom was the Atlanteans. Now, how do we prove this? And where is this? In the book, on page 416, there's a section called The Column of the Sky on the Atlas Mountain from the Hyperborean Country. And section 1 says, the geographic position of Atlas Mountain after heroic legends. Now, if you scroll down to the bottom of this page, yes, I will translate all of this later on. It says, as the old fountains of history tell us, which Diodor Sicu also used, Atlas was a brother of Saturn, and both were the sons of Uran and Gaia. Specifically, the Titan Atlas was a powerful king with a lot of wealth, who reigned over the people of Atlantis, who were part of the bigger family of the Hyperboreans. And this is off of Diodorus Siculus. Here's the reference to Diodorus Siculus, lib 35760. And then it also says, it was also said about this Atlas that he had flocks of sheep, I think it's large numbers of sheep with a golden red color. This is from Ibid, lib 427. And then there's more stuff it says. The next part I wanted to get to was so after this Titanomachia, it says, this Atlas, as brother of Saturn, who took part of the War of the Titans against Jove, which is also named Jove, Jove, also named Jupiter. So after this war against Jove, of which cause, after the win of this new monarch, Atlas was condemned to one of the hardest of duties, which the historic legends know, and this was to keep the sky with his hands and head. Now, this is a picture of the head of Atlas. The title of this picture is Column of the Sky of the Old Atlas from the Hyperborean country, today known as the head of the man on the southeast corner of the Carpathians. I think it's southeast, I'm not sure. This is a picture from 1899. Now, if you go to Google Earth, you type in Homo Romania, just like this picture says, right? It says beautiful Omului. Okay, anyways, this is the location you are taken to. This is also known as the Romanian Sphinx. Now, from a geographic point of view, the Romanian Sphinx is in the Carpathian Mountains of today, in the country of Romania. It's like literally in the, well, not quite the center, but very close to the center of the country. I'll get back to that. If you go online to Google and you type in the Romanian Sphinx, this is what the Romanian Sphinx looks like today. Everybody knows about the Egyptian Sphinx, very few know about the Romanian Sphinx. This is covered in detail by many sources, I won't get into it, check it out. What I want to point out is the shape. As you can notice, this picture, or rather how it looks today, is very different from how it looked back then. Okay. This is a different angle from the ones, Wikipedia on Google, but the point is that it doesn't look the same. It looks like since 1899 someone went with a chisel and chiseled out a large section of it. I will cover this in more detail when I actually go to translate the book. So then, now we know the Kingdom of Atlas is the surrounding area of where the modern day Romanian Sphinx is. Now, how do we know Atlantis is in this area? Going back to the book on page 422, this is written: as big as Atlas was, writes Ovidiu, he was changed into a mountain. His beard and his hair locks now became forests, shoulders. No, wait. So his hair and his beard now became forests. His shoulders and hands became extended cliffs, or rather sharp edges of ridges. And now the head is the tallest part of the mountain, which I just showed the Romanian Sphinx. His bones became cliffs, and then after he grew on all parts, he gained an immense extension. Anyways, he grew. And this is written by Ovidi in Metam 4v656 SEQQ. It's in Latin. If you know Latin, go ahead, translate it. You will see that it's correct what the man said. So, in essence, this is the head. It grew very big, and his body became the mountains covered by the forests, and in some areas there are very sharp edges. Now, later on in the book, on page 657, we are introduced to the Kingdom of Aeetes. Wait, is this the right page? Hold on. Now, first of all, who is Aeetes? Aeetes is said was a king of Colchis in Greek mythology. The name means eagle. Now you know where the eagle comes from on all the flags of the world, the single eagle. He was the son of sun god Helios and the Oceanid Perses, brother of Circe, Persis, and Pasiphae, and father of Medea, Chalciope, and Absyrtus. His consort was either Aeetes, youngest of the daughters of Oceanus, Asterodeia, a Caucasian Oceanid, Neaera the Nereid, Clytia, Ipsia, or Euryalite. According to others, he was the brother of Perses, the king of Taurus, husband of his niece Hecate, and father of Medea, Chalciope, and Absyrtus. Yet other versions make Aeetes a native of Corinth and a son of Ephyra, an Oceanid, or else of a certain Antiope. Asterope was also one of the possible mothers of... Wikipedia tells you a lot of possibilities. As I translate the book, you will see the correct interpretation of this king Aeetes. The idea is he was a very powerful man who was the king of Aea. Now, the title of this section on page 657 is called The Mountainous Region Named Colchis next to the Lower Istru, or the Lower Danube today. This starts speaking out about the Argonautic expedition, which legends know differently today because history has been falsified. Anyways, a rough translation. This legend refers to a miraculous country superior and civilized in the meridional region of the world. The local inhabitants, who the famous king Aeetes ruled over, were happy of a very excellent economic situation, pastoral and agricultural, and also enormous metallic wealth. This refers to everything that implies metallurgy. His gold wealth, this king who ruled over Colchis, were fabulous in all of antiquity. Now, it's important to understand this because later on, there was a place named Colchis in modern-day Georgia, as you can see on the map. It's on the other side of the Pontus Axenius. Now, the Pontus Axenius is the modern-day Black Sea. This Colchis is not the Colchis of King Aeetes. This was a confusion later on. The book clarifies the confusion up. The Colchis that he speaks of is actually in the shadow of the Mount Atlas of antiquity, which I described. Now, the man had a lot of gold. This Colchis, he goes on to say, was inhabited by the Colchis people on page 660. He says, I'll paraphrase this poem by Ovidiu. He says, Medea, saying the following words towards Jason from the Argonautic expedition: my father, Aeetes, is king over the entire region of the left side of the Pontus, all the way to Scythia, covered by us, I think. This is a quote from Ovidi Heroid XIIV 27, the second one. And then it continues to say, Colchis, of the poet Ovidiu, who lived next to another warrior tribe named Meterea Turba, were identical with the famous Colchis of the Argonautic legends. The origin of the name Colchis to this day is unexplained. In the superior regions of the Carpathians, once inhabited by pastoral tribes, by Pelasgic pastoral tribes, we find oftentimes the denomination of Colti, a word which has the significance of the tops of cliffs, of sharpened cliffs, the tops of proeminent and sharpened cliffs. This is the same understanding from prehistoric times and in the Greek denomination of Colchis, which appears to us in the legend of the Argonauts. And that's a reference to his translations of words, actually. He looked at the old Greek language, he looked at the Pelasgic language, he looked at the letters, and he tried to give the correct interpretation of the origins of the words and where they came from. So, we know there is a Colchis in Romania. Now, there is actually such a place named like that today. And as you can see, it's mostly a mountainous area. Now, in the book, we are shown this picture of Colchis. See, sharp ridges in the mountain tops with very clear features, really. And it's called Colchis, enormous cliffs with a pyramidal shape in the commune of Colchis from Buzău in Romania. Picture from 1900. Now, are you going to see this if you actually go there in person today? Well, I'll find out eventually, and I'll let you guys know. Unless someone else does it before me. If you do it, please share with me. So we know there's a Colchis, and on page 664 the book, we are told, oh, you know what, before I get here, let me cover the next part. So, the kingdom of Colchis, alright, no wait, sorry. Aeetes, king of Aea, had a capital city. This capital city had the name Dio. Oh, there it is, page 666. How ironic, it's on page 666. Okay. This section is called the capital and residence of King Aeetes, and the name of the city is called Dia Dioscurias Sevastopolis, today is called Tiridina. If we go back to Google Maps, there is a place called Tiridina. Except you don't find nothing today. And why don't you find nothing today? For that reason, I'm gonna read you something else that someone else translated on this website. Now, this website is attempting to state names of castles and what they were about in their history. So, the name of the, by the way, just so you know, this translation is mostly from the book. It's crazy. This website is using the book without referencing it properly. Anyways, castles of Tirigina in Romania. Moldova region, just 2 kilometers north of Galați County on the Tirigina Hills, Romania. The capital and residence of King Aeetes. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's the same translation. Dia Dioscoria Sevastopolis, today Tirigina. Tirigina or Terigina, which the ruined fortress from the mouth of Siret bears even today, is therefore only an archaic folk name of the Pelasgian Latin word Terigena. According to the most exact historical sources, the capital and residence of King Aeetes was situated at the mouth of the river Phasis, according to Apollonius Rhodius, whose important tributary was Saranges. Now, here you're shown a map of this location. This map is actually from the book on page 668. Now, this map pretty much says the area was here, as you can see by Tirigina. Now remember that it's supposed to be close to Colchis. Colchis is mountain ridges, right? Now, to continue on this short description of the area. The famous capital of Aeetes was situated, as we have already mentioned, on the high ground where the 2 memorable rivers Phasis join with Saranges, therefore Buzău and Suret, those are their present-day names, flew into Oceanos Potamos, or Istru. This is the Danube of today. Indeed, on the left bank of Siret River, close to the point where its waters join the Danube, could be found up to our days the ruins of an ancient and powerful fortress which is called even today Tirigina. In 1836 and 1837, Professor Ceaulescu of Iași, one of the most erudite Romanian men of his epoch, has studied with extreme interest these antique ruins from the mouth of Siret. We can thank him for the precious data which we have today about the architectonic remains of this glorious fortress. Then the book is cited. Ceaulescu believed that these ruins might have represented the ancient city of Romania Dacia, called Caput Bubali or Caput Bovis. This was a justifiable error for his times. This ancient city was encircled by construction works executed in an entirely particular manner. According to the foundations uncovered during the last dig, ancient Tirigina had a fortress and a city, which was divided in the old city, situated under the castle, and the new city adjoining the old one on its western side. The citadel is on a hillock, partly collapsed around 1837, about 40 fathoms high, while the plateau on which are the ruins of the citadel has an extent of about 35 fathoms in diameter. The foothill and its vicinity were encircled and strengthened with walls. Towards south it was protected by the waters of Suret, which here at its widest forms a semicircle and an island in front of Tirigina. So remember, Tirigina was around here. So I'm assuming the island was around here. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? And then we have the general plan of the citadel and city of Tirigina, also known as Dia Dioscurias Dinogetia. Now we have this word, Dinogetia. Diogetia Diogenian, the ancient capital of King Aeetes. After the archaeological digs made in 1836 and 1837 by Professor G. Saulescu. So this map is actually on page 669 of the book Ancient Dacia. Now, when you think of Atlantis today, you think of like circular areas surrounded by water, right? We'll see these circular sections. That's exactly what that is. It seems to me that the highest point was where, well, actually, let's not assume. Let's read what the man had to say. So A was the castle, see, highest point. B was the old city. Where's B? Oh, right here. Okay. So this was the castle. This was the old city. C is the new city, right here. D is the suburbs, right here. 1 is road to Borbosh. So this is a road. Borbosh still exists today, by the way. 2, earthworks and retaining wall for top of the hill. 2. Where's 2? Anyways, you can check this out yourself. There's the link. 3 and 4, western. I really want to know what the circles represent. So the circles have the numbers 13. 13 is defensive earthworks or trenches. See? Defensive earthworks. So all these are filled with water. All these circular things are filled with water. That's the road. That's the river. So the city, in a sense, was defended on one side by water, on one side by, well, there was more walls, but there was also the cliffs of the Colchis that I spoke about earlier on one side. Now, to put this into perspective, we have to analyze the new name addition of Diogetia. Not here. As I was saying earlier, Diogetia. No, wait, Dinogetia, sorry. This is Dinogetia today. As you can see, there is a lot more buried underneath the ground. As you can see, there's a river even today, and there's a circular shape here, which was who knows what. Now if you go to the map, or rather Google Earth, and you type in Dinogetia, it takes you literally just a very short distance from Tirigina. So in essence, off the bat I conclude that this actually used to be a much larger structure, because if you will pay attention to who Aeetes was later on, they were not our size people. They were big people. They were giants. They were the giants of old. So if this is Dinogetia and this is Tirigina, and both are the names of the same place, then this whole area had to have been part of the same city. And the river changed its course naturally, but more so, Colchis is over here. Colchis. This is where the mountain starts to appear. This is where those sharp cliff edges are. So not only is it here that the capital of this great kingdom was, of Aeetes, but chances are it either extended all the way over here, or there was more cities that made up this area. And of course, when you read the book, when I translate the book, you will understand that it flows into the Danube River, which flows into the Black Sea. So we're talking about much, much bigger cities that had gigantic people in them. And even the river had a different course, which no longer is followed the same way today. The world just simply looked different. More so, let me finish what this had to say, this website, because it's literally a translation from the book. We have presented here the principal findings of the series digs executed by Professor Ceaulescu at Tirigina in 1836-1837. They are invaluable for the historic science, especially when considering that today the aspect of the terrain has completely changed here, that the remains of these interesting fortifications have disappeared from the face of the earth, and that even the river Citadel has changed here its course. When studying these ruins, we have to take into account that the ancient traditions of the Orphic poem about the immense wealth of King Aeetes echo even today in the tales of the locals from around Tirigina. Now this is 1900. I don't know if they still have these legends today. Quote, I heard from a number of old locals, end quote, writes to us the teacher G.A. Morjanu from Fileș village, that on the eastern side of Tirigina fortress, facing Bălboș railway station, there is an underground vault with strong gates, and that inside it there is a gold statue of the king, seated in a gold carriage with gold horses. Finally, we have another circumstance. In Romanian folk traditions, Tirigina is also called the Fortress of the Giants, and with the same epithet of Fortress of the Giants, Titanis appears Aeetes' capital, also with Apollonius. Wow. I hope I do a better job translating. What is there in the castle now? Today you can only find the remains of the castle on the hill with the same name. Poem about the castle. The Orphic poem describes the splendor of this memorable city like this. In front of the palace, and the lovely river raises its inaccessible enclosure of the fortress, 9 fathoms high, defended by towers and strong masses of well-cut stone, and encircled by 7 circular walls. See, 7 circular walls. Now, walls, water, both? There are 3 huge copper gates in the walls of the fortress, and the wall above them is crowned with golden crenels. Above the gates lintel is placed the statue of the divinity who the Colchis venerate under the name Diana or Artemis. She is the goddess of the gates, the noisy rider staring into the distance and exuding a shivering light exactly like a flame. When Jason arrives with his companions at the mouths of river faces, Aeetes, accompanied by his daughters Chalciope, the widow of Phrixus, and Medea, yet unmarried, were taking a ride on the field adjoining the river in a gold carriage in which Aeetes shined like a sun, because the gold of his vestments radiated only light. He wore on his head a crown of brilliant rays, his scepter shone like lightning, and his daughter sat on each side of him. This is from Orpheus, Argon v. 896. Apollonius Rhodius tells us even more, and then his source, about Aeetes' citadel and his magnificent palace. Jason, accompanied by Phrixus, children and 2 heroes of his group, enters the city and the palace of Aeetes. They stop first in the vestibule, and Jason admires the walls, the large gates, the pilasters adjoining the stone walls of the palace, decorated on the upper part with copper triglyphs or beam ends. Then they beam ends. Interesting. Then they pass in silence over the threshold, near which great vines with green leaves and in full bloom climbed upwards. From under the vines 4 fountains, dug and built by Vulcan, flew continuously, one of milk, another of wine, the third of lovely scented myrrh, and the 4th of water. From the western side of this latter fountain flew warm water, in which bathed the figures of the Pleiades, and from a rock on its eastern side flew icy cold water. Such divine things Vulcan, the master craftsman, had executed in King Aeetes' palace. This was the miraculous appearance of the capital of Aeetes, king over the region called Aia or Terra, and over the mountainous land of the Colchis. Now, I showed you a picture of Dinogetia. Wikipedia has a reference to Dinogetia. It was the ancient Ghetto-Dacian settlement and later Roman fortress located on the right or southern bank of the Danube near the place where it joins the Siret. See, even Wikipedia recognizes Siret, Danube, same area. The Dinogetia site is situated in northern Dobruja at 8 kilometers east of Galați, Romania, and 2 kilometers north of the village Gervan. In the Roman and Byzantine period, look at this cross found from that area. Talk about gold, talk about precious stones, talk about high-class craftsmanship and metallurgy. Here's what it says. The Ghetto-Dacian settlement was conquered by the Romans and transformed into a boundary fortress. That's a lot. Well, maybe they used it for those purposes, but who knows. The site was mentioned by Ptolemy, located in the center of an arch made by the Danube around Machin, Galați, and Gura Prutului. The Roman fortress of Dinogetia Gervan had initially been a castellum, a small fortress, having its role in the defensive system on the lower Danube. I'll stop right there. Why? Because in the book it clearly states this great capital was the most powerful place in the world during its time. And this place, as I demonstrated, was a kingdom next to Atlas, the Titan that got turned into stone. Now, Alba Iulia is another city in Romania. It used to be the former capital of Transylvania. It is now known as the spiritual capital of Romania. I wanted to point out its structure. Notice how it's literally a star fort. We still don't understand clearly what star forts are, but notice how it's shaped. More importantly, notice how The buildings are built old school style out of red brick, and more than likely they are all connected underneath the ground, and more than likely there are underground parts to the city which we are not allowed access to today. Why am I pointing this out? First, because of its location. It, just like, oof, my bad. Or you can even see it. Look at that. Just look at that. That's Alba Iulia. You can clearly see it. Star Fort. You see that? That's just amazing. Purely amazing. But I'm pointing this out because chances are that Dino Jetia place was similar to this, except it probably was much bigger, like this distance big. Also, you could say this right here is the birthplace of civilization. Now, I was born in the Romanian province of Prahova. Where is Prahova? There's Prahova. There's the city, or rather, the edge of the city that I think used to be there in the past. There's the Romanian Sphinx, and there's Prahova. And I was born in this place, Câmpina, which is very close to the Romanian Sphinx. I think it's less than 50 miles away. So when you see people like the lady on the channel New Earth, make an entire video series about when the survivors of Atlantis wake up without giving any clear indications to anything than just pictures. Who is she talking about? Who is the survivor of Atlantis waking up? And what does waking up mean? Remembering who we are? Well, there you go. Kingdom of Atlantis. I guess I'm a survivor. And I guess I'm remembering. And I've decided the next video will be a table of contents of the book before I give an analysis. Just so you understand clearly how much powerful information is included in the book Ancient Dacia by Nicolae Densusianu. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something from this.